Hey everyone, my name's Anthony. I'm a corporate guide here at Northwest Registered Agent, and I've been here for about 2 years. Today we're going to be talking about cybersquatting. We're going to be talking about what cybersquatting is, the different types of cybersquatting, we'll give you some examples, and then finally we'll talk about some solutions of cybersquatting. So let's take a look at what cybersquatting is. Cybersquatting occurs when someone buys a domain related to someone else's trademark with the intent to profit off of it. So let's take a look at, is it cybersquatting? So a domain must be confusingly similar to a trademark, and malicious intent must be present. So let's talk about what malicious intent is. So if a cybersquatter is looking to sell the domain for a sum or charge any money for someone that frequents that website, this could be a form of malicious intent. Another example of malicious intent is if you stumble upon a website and it says under construction, otherwise unreachable, or is predominantly made of ads, this could be another form of cybersquatting. So let's talk about the different types of cybersquatting. The first one we have is typosquatting. So typosquatting occurs when someone registers a domain that is very similar to a domain that is already registered. So for example, our domain is northwestregisteredagent.com. If someone were to register northwestregisteredagents.com, this could be considered a form of cybersquatting. The next one we're going to take a look at is identity theft. So identity theft occurs when someone purchases an expired domain and then reactivates it and then puts product on that domain in hopes that customers come through and buy that product, which doesn't actually exist, and then they steal their credit card information. So the next one is namejacking. So namejacking occurs when someone registers a domain without someone's consent. Usually public figures is where you see this most common, and the goal is to get the traffic of anybody searching for information on that person. The next one we're going to look at is reverse cybersquatting. So this is using intimidation or other bad faith in an effort to take ownership of someone's domain. So let's take a look at some case examples. The first one we're going to look at is Verizon versus OnlineNIC. So Verizon sued OnlineNIC, which had registered 663 domain names that were surprisingly similar to various Verizon trademarks. OnlineNIC was found to have registered the domains in bad faith. The next example we're going to look at is PETA versus Doughney. So Michael Doughney registered the domain PETA.org, at which he launched a website dedicated to people eating tasty animals, which riffed on PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, in which Doughney claimed was a parody. Doughney ultimately lost the claim and was forced to hand the domain back to PETA. The next one we're going to talk about is TikTok. So TikTok realized that variations of their domain were registered, and their parent company filed a complaint using the Uniform Domain Name Dispute Resolution Policy. It was found that the domains were registered in bad faith, and ownership was then transferred back to TikTok. Next, let's talk about some solutions. The first solution is you can pay the cybersquatter. This can sometimes be the fastest and cheapest resolution, so it might make sense to meet their demands. The next solution you have is to file a cybersquatting lawsuit in federal court. So for this to happen, a trademark owner must prove that the domain is the same as your trademark or has the likelihood of confusion with it. The trademark is famous or distinctive, and the domain was registered in bad faith with the intent to profit. If the trademark owner wins, a court order will likely be issued that transfers domain and possibly provides monetary damages. All right, so next we're going to talk about how to submit a claim using the Uniform Domain Name Dispute Resolution Policy. These complaints can be submitted to agencies like the Intellectual Property Organization and often lead to resolutions more quickly and for less money than court. Complaints using this method allege that a domain name exists that is either the same or similar to their trademark, the domain owner doesn't have a valid interest in the name, and the domain was registered and used in bad faith. The best case scenario is that the domain is canceled or transferred because monetary damage is not available with this method. So today we talked about cybersquatting. We talked about what it is, we talked about the different types, we gave some case examples, and then we offered some solutions. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe to our page. If there's a topic that you want to see covered, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. And remember, call Northwest when you want more.